In the year 1960, I discovered a wonderful, almost immortal animal that possessed characteristics soon to astound even the most learned scientists. Although it sounds like science fiction, these animals live for years, perhaps centuries, in suspended animation sealed in magic crystals. Time travelers journeying through the fourth dimension. When you witness the miracle of instant life, a door will open that had always been closed to you. A door to a new dimension in your awareness of the nature of life. Only $1 plus 25 cents shipping.
At the end of World War II, Americans were having lots of kids. And if kids love anything, it's toys. And if they love anything else, it's pets. And also, kids love surprises. This is the story of a man named Harold von Braunhut, who once had an idea for all those new American kids. An idea that combined pets, toys, and surprises. It was a small idea that would have a big impact on generations to come. Harold's idea came from the strangest place, a bucket of brine shrimp, commonly sold as fish food. He looked into the bucket and said to himself,
I think I can make the pet food into the pet.
Harold von Braunhut set out to sell brine shrimp to kids as pets. You see, Harold realized that brine shrimp might look boring, but they actually have this cool superpower called cryptobiosis. To survive long periods of drought, brine shrimp produce eggs that can remain dormant for years or even decades. To the naked human eye, the eggs just look like tiny grains of sand. But if you just add water,
Instant life. I thought if you could see it come to life, what would be more remarkable than that? The world's only instant live pets.
this is how Harold made it work. First, you pour ordinary tap water into the MicroView Ocean Zoo.
MicroView Ocean Zoo.
Then, you put in the contents of packet number 1, the water purifier.
Packet number 1 purifies the water. You must wait 24 hours for the purification process to complete.
By the way, for a kid, this is like a super long time.
Now you can add packet number 2. This contains the eggs and the miracle of instant life.
Packet number 2 is where the magic happens. You drop these mysterious crystals into the tank, and your new pets just instantly appear.
In less than 1/50th of a second, you have actually created living animals. What an awe-inspiring accomplishment.
Kids were gonna love it, but he still needed a name. And although it would prove a confusing choice to literally everybody else in the world, to Harold von Braunhut, it was obvious.
Sea monkeys.
In a clever move, Harold skipped over parents and marketed directly to the kids.
Everyone else in toys was buying TV time. So I went to comic books. Back then, a lot of companies looked down on comic books. I bought something like 3.2 million pages of comic book advertising a year. Hey, it worked beautifully.
Joe Orlando, later vice president of DC Comics, to draw the advertisements. Those Joe Orlando images are iconic beyond belief. But the ad copy, that was all Harold, and Harold really had a voice.
Bubbling over with spectacular tricks, these tiny, talented troopers perform like real circus stars. Watch the comic antics of these fantastic underwater buffoons that are actually really alive. Order now. Only $1 plus 25 cents shipping. Caricatures shown are not intended to depict Artemia Selena. Everyone told me I was crazy. Yeah, I was so crazy. I established a national icon.
X-ray glasses, spy pens, sea monkeys, and a real rocket ship for only $2?
Oh, it's all novelty bull. Trick little kids. None of that crap ever worked.
This might be a good time to acknowledge that for a lot of people, sea monkeys are kind of just a scam. Like, maybe they're most famous for being a massive disappointment.
No!
Not for everyone, mind you, but still. For a lot of kids, sea monkeys marked a key moment in childhood where you learn that real life is just not as awesome as your dreams. Sometimes real life is just downright crappy.
What the is this?
Oh, they like it, Dad.
But whether you love sea monkeys or hate them,
Man, I love sea monkeys.
you have to admit, it's pretty amazing that Harold could breathe this much magic into brine shrimp. And it's not just that Harold has sold sea monkeys to tens of millions of kids over decades. Sea monkeys have also warranted serious study, like at this place, the Center for Postnatural History.
We're a small museum that is dedicated to living organisms that have been intentionally altered by people through selective breeding, domestication, or genetic engineering. We view these organisms as works of culture. We're specifically interested in sea monkeys because, to the best of our knowledge, they're the only living creature that's ever been specifically bred so that its life cycle would match the life cycle of a toy. Most people, when they think of sea monkeys, they think about advertisements that look like these. And they would promise that if you sent away your dollar and your coupon, you would get back these little anthropomorphic people. In reality, what you get are these tiny little monster creatures that are wiggling around and you can barely see them. Harold once said that he was inspired by the flea circuses he'd seen as a child. The fact that people would willingly believe in talented fleas that obviously didn't exist. Harold invented all of these different add-ons. One of them was called Cupid's Arrow. It was sort of a sea monkey Viagra, and things like the banana treat, that if you look closely at it, it looks an awful lot like they're smoking banana peels. Does anyone get that reference anymore, banana peels?
Very little is known about Harold von Braunhut, but what we do know is pretty amazing. He raced motorcycles as the Green Hornet. He managed the careers of entertainers, novelty acts like the Great Dunninger and Henry Lamoth, who would dive from 60 feet into just 12 inches of water. Harold was the antithesis of the post-war calm. He took a black and white world and put it in color. And he didn't just invent sea monkeys. Harold was a prolific inventor. His inventions included X-ray specs,
See too close.
crazy air-breathing crabs,
As gentle as a pussycat.
and amazing hair-raising monsters.
Just add water and start this crazy horror show right in your own home.
His best invention, though, was the invisible goldfish. All you had to do was send in your dollar, and you'd get an empty fish tank and some fish food. The ad copy promised you would never see the goldfish.
By the late 1960s, Harold had a problem. His sea monkeys were selling well, and they did work, but they just didn't work very well. Only one or two would survive per batch, and they had a limited shelf life. So Harold teamed up with an actual brine shrimp expert named Dr. Anthony D'Agostino, and the two of them set about breeding a hybrid brine shrimp so that it could live in its dormant egg state for as long as possible, grow as big as possible, and live as long as possible. Harold was, in one sense, operating as a kind of 20th century P.T. Barnum, but at the same time, the invention and experimentation that went into making sea monkeys work was a lot more like a Thomas Edison.
United States patent number 3,673,986, filed July 4th, 1972. Method and materials used for hatching brine shrimp.
A closer read of Harold's sea monkey patent reveals that he's been fooling us all along, but not in the way you might think.
Remember I showed you how to make sea monkeys? Well, it turns out this process is more like a magic trick than a science experiment. Packet number 1 is supposed to be the water purifier.
This purifies the water.
What Harold doesn't tell you is that packet number 1 also contains the eggs.
Now you must wait 24 hours for the purification process to complete.
So when he tells you to wait 24 hours before adding packet number 2, it's a form of misdirection. What he's really doing is giving the sea monkeys time to get big enough where you can actually see them. So during that whole day you are anxiously waiting to put in packet number 2 and create instant life, the sea monkeys are already alive. They've been hiding in plain sight.
You must wait 24 hours.
So what is in packet number 2? Blue dye. Harold put a tiny bit of blue dye in packet number 2. This dye settles on the now day-old sea monkeys and makes them even easier to see. So, instant life is real. Cryptobiosis, remember? But Harold knew it just didn't look that cool. So he created this whole elaborate stage show, an illusion of instant life that's just a little better than the real thing. This is where things get a bit strange and a lot darker. In 1968, Harold patented something called the Kyogre Spring Whip.
Kyogre the Steel Cobra is an automatically magnetically triggered steel whip armed with a heavy caliber striking tip. Nobody needs to know you are secretly armed to the teeth.
The advertisements that he took out for the Kyogre Spring Whip are eerily similar to the ones that he took out for sea monkeys. Same layout, same coupons, and perhaps most troubling, the same address.
Then, in an even stranger turn, Harold pledged the profits of the Kyogre to the Aryan nations. According to the Anti-Defamation League, which kept a large file on him, Harold was a very generous and very active member of this group.
This fellow, he represents...
And then there is someone named Hendrik von Braun.
It'll be Mr. Hendrik von Braun, Imperial Order of the Black Eagle. Give him a big hand. Come on, Mr. Braun.
An overwhelming amount of evidence forces me to conclude that the man you are looking at here is actually Harold.
The badge of our order is not a swastika. It's not a clown cross. It's your white skin. Hail victory. The niggers hate the white race. The Jews hate Christians. They're the enemy. They hate us. Yet we're supposed to love them.
One person who knew Harold quoted him as saying, "Hitler wasn't a bad guy. He just got bad press."
It's the great mystery lurking out behind the Sea Monkey Castle. How does the guy who invents all of these wonderfully playful, fun things also promote such horrible ideas? The closer I look, the more different these two Harolds appear to be to me.
Hate is as natural as love. Hate is just the same coin as love. It's not the opposite side.
Now I have to back up and tell you that Harold had yet another identity and yet another name. Harold von Braunhut was born Harold Braunhut to a Jewish family in New York. So now we have the inventor of sea monkeys, who is Jewish, pledging large portions of his fortune to an anti-Semitic hate group.
Those reports are all lies. I don't have to defend myself to you or anyone else. Look, I'm done here.
Harold filed his final patent in 2002.
Background of the invention. Kids love pets. For some children, pets serve as friends, confidants, items of affection, and items of consolation. For other children, pets take the place of brothers and sisters they never had or will have. One drawback of aquatic pets, however, is that they must be kept in a stationary tank at home. Oftentimes, children are left to fixate on their watch, counting down the hours, minutes, and finally seconds until they can get back to playtime with their beloved sea monkeys. There is a need for a means to allow sea monkeys to be enjoyed around the clock, so to speak. Such need is met by the aquarium watch of the present invention.
When I look at sea monkeys, what I see is the imprint of Harold's imagination. Harold von Braunhut was one part genius inventor to one part flim-flam man. And at another part so dark, it casts a shadow over his whole legacy. People are complicated. Life is complicated. Life can be disappointing and heartbreaking. And life can be magical and fun. And it's all right there in the tiny story of Harold and his amazing live sea monkeys.